and we're live. Welcome, everybody. If people are just getting on right now, um, we are going to wait a couple of minutes for people to come on, and we're really happy and pleased to welcome everybody to the 40K a day blind spot, the cost of late visibility between the field and leadership. So, Sam, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How about you, Stephanie?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Just to be sure, and that might be expected, I don't see the event live. Oh, yeah, perfect. It's switching to live right now on LinkedIn. Perfect. Thank you.
You know, tech always catching up. When it works, as we all know, it's fabulous. When it doesn't, not so much.
Right. So,
Let's go ahead. So, again, welcome everybody. I'm Stephanie Brown. I'm founder and technology strategy director at Intelligent Construction Opportunities. We built a system that runs your technologies through various structured assessments to match how you actually run your projects and make those decisions on the job. And that's both on the field and the back office, so that you have fewer unused licenses for higher adoption and, of course, overall better outcomes. Sam, you want to tell people a little bit about yourself?
sure. So, yeah, my name is Sam, head of partnerships at Tervene. At Tervene, and myself, I've been working for the past 10 years in perfecting daily management system. So, daily management system really being the one of the key element to bridge the gap between execution and the planning. And actually, we'll dive today mostly on um, the 40K a day blind spot that is often hidden by daily management system not being as standardized and fluid as we'd like.
Yes, and I just want to say one thing. I mean, Sam and I have a partnership. We are working together, and Trevine has done a pretty amazing job working with a lot of companies. But as you can see, these are some that are very prolific and spill over into, I'd say, across between manufacturing and construction. So anyway, if your schedule, so this is the crux of why we're all here today. If your schedule burns at 40,000 a day, how many hours of late visibility can you afford? I mean, it's I think the obvious question is none. But by the same token, we know that's not reality. So let's get into what that actually looks like. So we want to sort of start off with a gut check, if we can, for our participants. We want you to think about the last time you learned about a project problem after your crews were already affected. So we, you know, put a few categories out there, obviously, as you can see on the slide: delivery, material, coordination, trade stacking, inspections, the good old RFI delays. Is it safety? Was there an accident? Feel free to drop a note in the chat and tell us what kind of issue it was. Uh, Sam?
Yeah. Well, I feel like, and I've seen on LinkedIn that there's might be a bit of a delay. So before we get comments from the attendees looking at the live stream, maybe I'm not sure we'll get the answers live because there's a bit of a delay. So one thing we usually see in terms of, let's say, the types of issues you've highlighted here, Stephanie, is that most of the time when those issues reach leadership, the first question that comes to mind is, why am I learning about this now? Why haven't heard about it earlier? And why did it actually happen? So usually those are small issues that were either preventable or that we could have fixed if we had the the right material on time, as we got a comment about that just popping in now. Those small issues usually compound over time, and if they were prevented or actioned earlier in their life, they would have had much less of an impact.
And thank you for that comment, Amira. Good to see you here. Feel free to jump in. I know you've got some very strong thoughts and opinions around particularly commissioning and what happens after the site. I met Amira, and I believe you have a civil engineering background, so feel free to join in at any point during our presentation today. So let's move it along. So let's get into. Oh, we've got another comment from another good colleague of mine, Renee. Great to see you, Renee. I really appreciate you joining in today. So you're right. We need to be proactive, not reactive. And this is from Renee, who's all about the quality. That's her quality control library is a fantastic one for people that really want to hone in on how to be better quality control and make contributions to the site. Thank you for that comment. You're right. It's all about the proactivity. So let's get into the scenario that we've kind of thought about today to represent this 40K a day blind spot. We've got the field, which is where the heartbeat is in construction. We all know it. Nothing's going to get built unless the field's doing it. So let's pretend there's a beam misalignment, and so the crew has to hold at least in that particular stage. And the crane's on the clock, and it can't move, and the workarounds have to begin in some way, shape, or form. That's either people moving out of the way so that another trade can move in and do maybe something more foundational to try and appease the project manager and most importantly the budget so that everything doesn't get out of whack. And this is where the superintendent obviously is going to step in and do what needs to be done physically on the site. And meanwhile, the dashboard from leadership, it looks like there's no problems. At least that's what is said, because nothing has been articulated to communicate up at this point. So both are technically accurate, but the cost lives in the gap between these two ideas. So we're talking about where visibility starts to die. So the information isn't disappearing, it just stops at predictable points, because obviously on the field it's a very physical thing. The problems occur on the site, the crew knows, but the work has to continue. And the superintendent hears about it, likely fairly rapidly in some way, shape, or form, but often verbally, because that seems like the more natural way of communication. And decisions start to be made whether it needs to go up. But often it's held because they're trying to resolve on the site. And let's be honest, they're being measured on their ability to resolve issues on the site. And then you've got your second break, which may or may not exist between the superintendent and the project manager. They're maybe aware of it, they get a partial picture, maybe a day later, maybe several hours later. Either way, there's still a gap. And then last but not least, it's some form of leadership. It could be on the operations side, all the way up to the owner, dependent upon the size of the contractor. But they find out days after the fact. And decisions start to be made on old information. Sam?
Yeah, it's a perfect example of leadership having the ultimate context and or authority to tackle the issues, but not knowing about it, or having a big gap in when they learn about it. And the field on the opposite way are live with the issues. They know about it as soon as they occur, and maybe even before they have an impact, but they don't necessarily have the authority or the context to prioritize it according to its urgency and gravity. So each break between the levels is a huge gap that compounds.
Yes, and also it's not a linear gap. I mean, I know that, people in our audience already know that. Amira and Renee and other people know that it's not a it's not a case of of a linear gap. I mean, the gap could be even something that the project manager knows that the super didn't know. The project manager found out about that this morning, which is why whatever might have happened in the field happened. So there's all sorts of ways to move, these three breaks around these four ideas.
100%. It's bi-directional. The information flowing from the plan to the execution, and from the execution to planning, and the strategy to reach it.
And that's a regular day in construction. We all know that, the problems aren't going to disappear. What we're here to do today is to talk about how to help to resolve those, that continuity, I'll say, of problems. So when Sam and I were preparing for this, we wanted to really kind of hone in on the number, which is where the 40K came from, and we came up with a bit of a formula. And so the detection lag is days from the problem to the leadership. That's our first sort of basis point. How many days pass between when a problem occurs on the site and when somebody that can make a decision to change and make the problem go away, when do they hear about it? And in our research, we have discovered it's kind of a lag between 3 and 7 days. So the next part of our equation is the exposure. So what's the cost of delays per day per project? What does 1 day of unresolved exposure of any one issue that needs to be addressed by somebody beyond the field, be that rework, schedule slip, subcontractor friction, somebody didn't show up that was systemic to the job, the concrete truck came late, it was not up to snuff and of the quality to be poured. It could be, and the industry knows better than I, all of the complexity that happens. And then we get to step 3. How many active jobs are being run? So that compounds step 1 and step 2. So the equation is the detection lag times the daily exposure. So what does 1 day cost? Times how many active jobs are you running over the course of your construction company? That's the equation. The detection lag times the daily exposure times the active jobs equals whatever we're calling your portfolio exposure. And that is something, you may even be able to, off the top of your head, for those that are listening to our live stream, share with us what that looks like. Sam, do you have anything to add?
Not much. It's a good brief of the how this portfolio exposure can be really looked at. But just maybe to come back to Mira's comment earlier, the lack of material to do the work, or sometimes small tool missing, and that we just realized on the morning of. It might seem like a very small issue, as it is easily resolved, but those are the kind of issues that they compound, and the detection lag, but also the daily exposure and the amount of exposure, so the number of active jobs you have, make those small issues really eat the margins.
And you're right. And I mean, and getting back to Amira's idea of sometimes small tools, that sounds, so trite, but I'm thinking when you say that, so say supposing you are missing a trowel or something that is, a basic hand tool to any construction site. Even if that's missing, then you've got a tradesperson who's so used to jimmying things and fixing things and being able to do things literally with duct tape. And then you also then expose yourself to injuries that maybe happen that didn't have to happen because they're trying to compensate for that lack of small tool. So, I mean, it just, I think the major word today is compound.
Mhm.
That's really the reality that most construction sites live in all the time. So what we've done here is we've basically looked at sort of a timeline scenario just to, I guess, spell it out even in more clear terms. So Tuesday at 2 p.m., the issue gets identified and the field is logging it. They're using their digital tools, what their Procore, their whatever it is that they are doing some form of reporting. But also remember that most daily reports don't get done on average, I'd say till the end of the day tends to be a better practice. So they're not even identified when the problem happens. Again, this is the major story we're talking about here. So it's only really at field level. And so it's manageable. The super's job is to try and keep the site tight and obviously doesn't want to just, sound off fire alarm bells every time there's an issue. But nonetheless, it depends on the issue. It depends on the skills of the people on the site to resolve the issue. And if it cannot be resolved there, it's still stagnated here at the 2 hour fix, which fast turns into Wednesday, where the workarounds begin, and more issues. The second issue compounds. And leadership's visibility may by that time, it might have gone up to project management, which then, of course, informed who they report to in the operations. So there's some sort of partial visibility, but nonetheless, the problem over here is still accumulating. And by Thursday, you've got more issues, third issue surfaces. The PM now is escalating perhaps not only the first one, but more. Leadership is now aware, and the window starts to close. So that by Friday, the schedule impacts are clear. Whatever had to stop here is now showing up here on the schedule. So now leadership has full picture visibility on their dashboard, whatever those daily reports were. And that 40K a day, we're calling 40K a day from our estimates, begins to burn. And here's, we've got Renee. Yes, dailies usually get entered the day after, and then there's a lag when leadership may review them. You're absolutely right. And again, this is, thank you for the comment, Renee. It helps to contextualize your own experiences, those that are listening to our live stream this morning. Because again, and even Renee's comment shows you that, yes, they get entered, but again, it depends on your practices. It could be at the end of the day, if that site super or who's ever holding the bag, I'll call it, in terms of the report, or maybe the practice is the next day. It all depends on the model of how those projects are run by the particular contractor. So that's all the nuance of why we're leading into where we're going here today with the purpose and the I'll say the value of having some kind of a daily management system.
And just to go back to the sequence we were looking at, it might be or seem manageable when we think about a very one issue, and it could be done through WhatsApp, in a WhatsApp group with almost everyone being involved and informed about that specific issue. But it's really the problem with WhatsApp or any other tool that realize that information about that issue to everyone and no one at the same time is really the chaos that that happens with the volume of small issues happening on a daily basis. So if we take one issue and put it through that sequence, it seems manageable, and we're even used to living through the chaos of managing all of those issues reactively and trying to stay on top of it. But
Yes,
really the level of managing all that, there's something to do about it. It's we can't just say it's always been that way. I just got to manage the chaos. yes, we got to manage the chaos, but we can do it effectively and in a systemic and proactive way.
And to put a fine point on that, I think Amira's point is very right. I mean, what is missing are quality KPIs. And this is where we're going to get into that. So you're absolutely right. And thank you for the winky. It's exactly right. And we have another LinkedIn user here. Pareto applies here too. 20% of issues are not identified, cause 80% of the waste. Isn't that the truth? Isn't that the truth? Thank you for that comment, LinkedIn user. Okay, so we will move on then to our next slide, which of course is, a little bit of cynicism here. It'll probably be fine, but Sam?
Yeah, it's the right word here is hope. And I talked a bit earlier about chaos and just saying, oh, it's the way it's always been. We can manage chaos, and I'll just be on top of things however I want to be on top of things. But it's hope is not enough to ensure predictable outcomes. So if we say it's probably going to be fine because we've sent the dailies the day after, and then leadership will take that into account and come back with a plan to solve it. We've already incurred quite a lot of cost and possibly an impact on the schedule and timeline. And that's really, I hate to use it again, but the word compounding really happens from there.
And I think RFIs are a great example too. I mean, they often, so the RFI goes out and you've got, you know, architects or BIM builders sitting on decisions that have to be modified because the realities on the site aren't matching the design, and things get hung there. And so I kind of get back to what Amira's already identified. It's really, we're on the way to what is missing are the quality KPIs that I would say even go beyond reporting. So that, and Renee just weighed in again. She hears all the time, we've always done it this way. That's so true. That's so true. And the other thing you want, that we really, really want to underline here, that it's not about the field. It's not about the skills. It's not about not understanding how tough the people that actually build the build have it. It's not about a blame game here. And if people would only give up this idea, I hear all the time, we have always done it this way. We've always done it this way, is when people are threatened about change, not understanding that they will be bought into the positive parts of the change, if that makes sense. So this is not about a blame game. It just isn't. Full stop. So we're going to sort of move into that 72-hour window that we've already talked about, which is sort of, if I dare say, a reiteration of our other slides. But again, the issue's identified, it's contained. The crew is idle on the second day because of the issue. Workarounds begin, whatever those are, whether they're going to move one particular trade out and put in another one that can maybe, I don't know, start to put in the drywall, but not be able to actually do the sealing of it because of whatever prevented it from whatever the trade issue might have been before. It's accumulating nonetheless. And then you've got schedule slippages and changes. Again, there's more compounding, and leadership acts on the fourth day. But still, that's when the dollars add up because of all the small things that were falling apart from day one to day three. So again, the issue didn't get worse. It's the visibility. We're talking visibility here. And again, we're talking, we've always done it this way, sure. But that's what we're trying to change. It's a behavior change that a daily management system helps you to change. It's no different than, everybody that had to come to get to the live stream today. I had to do several steps. Sam had to do several steps. We couldn't just go, well, we're going to put on a presentation and hope that people show up. It, it doesn't exist anywhere anymore. And certainly there's enough tools, digital or otherwise, that can help um, to make everybody's job and life a little bit better. I mean, it sounds trite, but that's true. So, Sam, I want you to take it from here. Um, we're really going to get into the teeth now, the daily management system.
Yeah. So we've talked about a lot about the problem, right? The 40K a day blind spot, the really what it impacts, what are its root causes. We've talked about that a lot, and we don't want to talk only about the problem today. We really want to give a path to what's the solution for that. And in the end of the day, there's no one solution for those kind of issues that happen every day, but the way we manage has a name, and it's called the daily management system. And it's every company in the world has, if they know it or not, they have a daily management system. They have a certain standard, formal or not, on how to manage on a daily, weekly, monthly basis. And how much time and effort we put into standardizing and aligning that daily management system with our daily operations and goals is going to have a significant impact in bridging the gap between the plan and what we hoped to do and the execution and what is really happening on the field. And so all that translates into leader standard work because you want to make extreme transparency over what is expected of whom, when, and at what frequency. This is really what defines the daily management system as a whole. But on top of that, we talked about the who, when, what, and how often. But there's also the how. So, how you will conduct your daily checks, routines, dailies, and so on. So, Stephanie, I don't know if you had anything else to add on especially the leader centered work part.
Anybody who's listening, wants to sort of share what their leader standard work looks like. I mean, we did, we're taking kind of average ideas that we uh, know exist on a site. So that toolbox talk is where you start, and it's really kind of looking at the way a general contractor runs their projects now, and making sure that whatever system you use, to go beyond, I'm going to use WhatsApp because it's so ubiquitous, particularly with trades on a job site and what they're used to using. What the daily management system is different, it's dynamic. It's going to be able to, say, even at a toolbox talk. I mean, if there was a crew huddle and there was a guy, who's I don't know, I'll say doesn't have the greatest attitude, you may want to capture that. You may want to kind of note it. You may have other insight into that individual, and all of this stuff can be confidentially also captured within the daily management system that you keep. It's just really it's a way for human beings, to stay accountable to one another. Is really, to me, in the essence of a daily management system as it relates to a project.
Yeah, and maybe one more thing, because I said earlier, every company in the world has a daily management system, formal or informal. And just by the look at the concept of leader standard work we have here on the slide, most often those all those small activities have been added on their own in an initiative that was punctual, but we not very often do we take a step back and look at the super schedule and conceptualize all those elements in the leader standard work against each other, and make sure that the information from problem detection to communication to problem solving is well conceptualized from one activity to another in their schedule. So we'll dive into that more, but I just wanted to highlight that it's not often that we, instead of adding one more activity, let's say the end of day report or daily, um, taking that into the whole management system approach and being driven by that discipline.
Yes, and I'll add even something more. I mean, obviously, when we talk about daily management systems and leader standard work, this is somewhat language that's used by the lean community in construction, and I think it's really important to call out that that's that's what is going to change it is when you have these more formalized ways to respect. Respect is an underlying principle in all of lean practices, and this is how you begin to respect the roles. So you can, to Sam's point, take your leader standard work and you can expand it by role so that that role feels respected, knows they're respected, so that actually the comment that Renee made about we have always done it this way, that's when these, I'll say, these trodden ideas go away, is when it stops being the us against them. And I think you really have to call that out when you're talking about leader standard work and daily management system, and particularly in construction, because that seems to me to be a systemic idea in the culture, which is it's them against us. And these are the ways that a contractor who believes in the lean practices and respect for everybody starts to build these into the leader standard work, which spills over into the actual practices of respecting your people. It's no longer just a statement. You actually build it into your process. So we're going to move on to exactly the slide that I feel is very powerful, and that's leaders in the operational efficiency. So it takes everybody. It doesn't, I mean, plans and ideas by the owners and the developers, they're all great, but nothing's going to happen until the field makes it happen. We all know this, we all talk about it, but by the same token, we need the tools to put it into practice. So this is not a fluid list from president top to the bottom of continuous improvement by any means. It's just a design, an org chart, if you will, a really flat and simple one that describes the major roles on any particular project. But what we've done here, particularly, and I have to give a shout out to Renee Denning and her husband because of their deep work in the area of quality. Quality, we know, should never be thought of something after the fact when the build's getting ready for its commissioning stages. We want to talk about quality all the way through. So we've purposely put some brackets here only to represent that both quality and continuous improvement are basically a circle. They are moving constantly around all of these ideas. And in my opinion, that's another practice that has to change, that a leader standard work can create, and they can be inputted into that daily management system. Sam?
Yeah, I can maybe just reiterate what you just said, or just add to it that the list of the people we put on the left, or the roles we put on the left, all of them are have their responsibility toward the goals and the objectives that we set ourselves. So it's not only quality's responsibility to meet quality's targets, it's everyone's involved. And that's where really daily management and leader standard work help conceptualize who does what, to control and make sure we meet the standards for safety, for quality, for cost, for delay, for people, and any other aspect you want to control and improve for. So it's really the link between the left side of the roles and the five teams or axis that we put in the leader's responsibility. There's no linear link between quality and one of those aspects. It's everyone is involved to some degree in meeting those goals.
That's right. Construction is team sport. You said it, Renee. So, and you're going to actually see where we get into leaders' responsibility. We have got some really cool collateral that is optional at the end of the live stream, and will be delivered not immediately, but there are things that are going to be able to help to bridge these ideas in today's live stream. So let's move on. So, Sam, take this away.
Yeah. This is just really to highlight the contrast between one of the first slides we showed, where we saw the breaks happening in between each level, and it could be going up or going down. That this break of information is provoking the compounding of issue and making really small issues becoming high cost. And the wished state of a fluid DMS or daily management system is something that looks a bit more conceptually like what you see on the screen now. So we want to identify on the field issues or risk as proactively as possible. So even before something has happened. So that's always the goal, identify as early as possible. And then from those issues being identified, we want to trigger a visibility cascade based on or as a visibility escalation, sorry, and or problem solving processes based on the gravity or the impact or potential impact of the issue or risk that has just been identified. So the feedback loop also in that it's not that much represented here in the slide, but the feedback loop is as important as the escalation, so that there's a full loop of the issues being escalated and information about that issue and how it's addressed being cascaded down to whoever and is impacted or raised the issue. And the other aspect that is maybe missing from that slide is also the communication of the context and the plan from leadership to the field. So this whole slide is really to expose that from the field to higher up, the information must flow as freely from down to bottom, then from down to leadership, or on the field to leadership, then from leadership to the field.
It's really more circular, I would say. And I just want to call out what Amira said earlier, because KPIs show up here for sure. It really is about starting to set standards. That's the truth, and that's where we've always done it this way begins to change, because people will know, working with that particular contractor, that there's a bar that's already been set and what expectations are. And therefore, when things fall below that, you're obviously below standard in terms of your conduct on that type of particular project and working for that particular contractor and the expectations. And maybe, again, I mean, let's get real here. Maybe some of the expectations aren't fair, aren't right, whatever, but you can still build your daily management system to absorb what perhaps are the objections to those standards and how they should be modified or calibrated dependent on XYZ or ABC. This is where the dynamics in any given daily management system will really matter, which is a good segue to the next slide. So the reality of today's processes and tools there's everything. There's human communication, there's walkie talkies, there's spreadsheets, there's logistics in and of themselves, there's every role that has its own role to play, but maybe their own agenda as well. You color that with WhatsApp and Stack and estimating software. Procore and BIM 360 are pretty ubiquitous on certain, I'll say, mid-level, certainly to enterprise contractors are, those are common applications now. But when you have all this complexity going on, you have to have an orchestra leader. And to me, the daily management system is the beginning of that, not only because it's a way to capture it all in the realities that these individual ideas live, but it also allows you to expand and contract when you need. And again, it's giving you the ability to design your project process your way, absorbing all of these ideas within it. So no single system captures it all. Every tool demands separate attention. That's maintenance, that's integration, just on the app side of it. Forget about the physical tools and the machines that are used to build the build. And data lives in silos often. I mean, there are some, apps out there that are trying to pull all the data together, but generally speaking, that data is siloed and only sometimes integrates. Very often, it doesn't integrate. Meetings, apps. So you're talking about people. You're talking about the apps the individuals are using. Some, I mean, I've heard a lot of trades. I mean, they've got so many apps on their phone they can't even see their screen anymore, and issues are going to fall through the cracks. So it's lacking that one unified real-time overview of the project. That's what we're trying to express here today. Sam?
Yeah, and it's really that's what we identify as one of the main root cause for the daily management system, not to look a bit like the first, and I'll show it if that's okay with you, Stephanie. The DMS looks more like this, where there's a break of information and flowing of information between the different levels. Today's DMS, and we always have, it's always been this way, is really a reflection of that usually. But the root cause of this, what we see on the screen happening, is usually explained by this. There's a strong link between why the information doesn't flow freely between the levels and how lost we are, and uh, between all those tools that we didn't necessarily take the time to organize the flow of information from the issue or the field to leadership and everything in between. So we want to get to something that looks like this, and one of the biggest obstacle to that is we have many different tools, and they're all siloed against each other, but we haven't necessarily taken the time to organize leader standard work in our daily management system to even if we keep using all of those tools, when do we do what about quality, safety, and any other aspects we want to control over time?
Can I ask you to just show that the Gemba slide, please? Just because
Sure.
I think it's important to understand that we believe that the Gemba walks and leader standard work and daily management systems all feed off of one another. And I prepared this particular slide because there's formal ways of walking the site and there's more informal ways, which we would refer to as an afternoon site walk. I mean, most daily management systems can absorb both of these, but I felt it was important to sort of build a story around what the difference is, and a Gamba walk is going to give you more discipline, and that's just the truth. I mean, it's a difference between checking it versus understanding it, and that's really, again, with a good daily management system, together with the leader standard work, and really deciding where your bar is in your projects that are going to make the difference, getting back to that 40K blind spot. Sam, do you have anything to add?
No, not, well, this slide is just where we see the, be it a site walk or a Gemba walk or any other activity we decide to implement and put in place, if we want it to stick, if we want it to be standardized across time and even evolve and improve over time, it must be part of leader standard work. It's a living standard. It's how we define how it lives in daily management system.
And again, this gets back to the school of lean and continuous improvement, and dare I say, quality control. I mean, that's that's the thing. That's the bar that this is an opportunity toward. Is is uh, understanding that there's no fix, there's no permanent fix to anything, but it's basically offering a dynamic system for you to live in with your own version and standards and practices that you feel are going to, for the most part, take your projects and give you at least some sort of predictable outcomes from project to project, with all the complexity and all the quote unquote problems that can happen on any given day during a 2 year build of your average project.
And so if we get to this specific slide, I feel like it's the essentials is the right way to describe it. It's the typical activities, but also the categories of activities we will typically implement and want to standardize in the daily management system. So we can look at the categories first and dive into the specific activities after. But we talked about proactivity a lot. I even saw Renee mention it earlier in the comments. It's an important part, being proactive, detecting problems as early as possible has a significant impact on how much it costs, how much they impact, and just really their overall cost, both in money, but on impacting the schedule and other important indicators. So operational control is a way to be proactive. It's saying every one at some frequency, I'm gonna go and check if we're respecting X or Y standard that we set up for ourselves. Are we on time? Are we on schedule on X, Y, Z? From those issues by being identified, being proactively or sometimes reactively, we want to make sure that we have a standardized way to document and escalate those issues based on their category, the type of issue, and who's the best person to prioritize it, or group of person to prioritize it, address it, and fully understand the context of the impact or potential impact of that issue to prioritize it according to its full context. And this is really where the communication and KPI review comes in. So you identified an issue, you escalate it to the right place or people, but now it needs to be communicated to the right place or people. And there's something going on to prioritize it against other fires or problems that are happening. And this is really where the tiered meeting structure is quite powerful. It's the, the ecosystem by which we escalate and cascade information and issues. But the committees and the KPI reviews are also very important to take all that into account, the communication, the KPI. And what comes out of those is actions, action items that X or Y person must take in order to mitigate the problem or even make it disappear, or ensure that it doesn't have further impact on schedule, cost, quality, safety, or anything else that is really impacting the business. So that's where the last category, the problem solving and action management, comes in as very important. It's accountability, making sure that the decision we took in the tier 2 meeting, in a huddle, is correctly assigned and tracked to the right person, and that whenever that issue is solved or taken into account by the owner of the issue, the person that first raised or detected or documented that issue is also aware at what is happening with the issue they raised, because that's something we also hear very often. It's been 5 times, 20 times I said I had that problem. And every time we get at that stage of construction or the build, we get the same issue. And it's the issue recurring, but it's the break of information or the feedback loop is making it frustrating for people on the field and not even wanting to do the next Gemba or sidewalk, because maybe it's the fifth time they've raised the same issue in their sidewalk, but they don't hear back once they send that higher up. And again, we're not blaming anyone. It's not because we don't want to give them feedback. It's because we don't have the daily management system that offers that fluid feedback loop, from field to leadership and back. And I'll just finish with the management schedule. It's the big box that's on the right side. If you want any of those activities to sustain themselves over time, to work over time, and to even improve over time, because continuous improvement is also about continuously improving your daily management system, then defining a standard for those activities is what is the most important. Because the left side is the how, but you must also define who does what and at what frequency. And that's where leader standard work lives.
And to your point, I mean, the leader standard work is, if you want to put it this way, it's leader and management's daily report. It's not a daily report, it's an overall report. But if they don't set the conditions of the report, in other words, this has to lead what those daily reports are showing up. And they have to provide the leader standard work in relation to whatever those outputs are. Because the truth of the matter is, I think too often those daily reports that are done from the field, first of all, as Renee pointed out in her experience and in my experience and in most people's experience, those daily reports are done at the end of the day, or some semblance of that. Certainly not when the issue's happening, because they can't. No guy's running around the site with his iPad, rudgerized as it is, waiting to tip tap type something into a keyboard. So it has to be the reverse way of managing the data, the reporting, the outcomes, the collection of what happened, until such time as we have, AI, where literally, the drywaller can, have a problem and scream it into the wind, and some AI is picking it up that takes it back to a dashboard. And until that day ever happens, and hopefully it won't for all kinds of reasons, but anyway, this and the reporting has to be led by management. And to me, that's what the definition is of leader standard work. Sam, what are your thoughts?
Uh, Fully agreed. It's that's the conclusion of I feel what we were trying to say here, really.
So let's we're getting close to our hour. So basically, we're somewhat summarizing. What we're talking about here is trying to drive towards operational excellence, seen through the lens of continuous improvement, which means that it's never, it's it's never going to be always operating at excellence, but you're always going to be striving. So you want your predictable and daily practices are only going to reach those targets when the right crew with informed management are working together to manage the evolving incidents, delays, timelines, and budgets. It's not a, I mean, listen, you could say, I mean, I've certainly got, all kinds of office experience. It's easy to say it's like the worker reports to the manager, but that dynamic no longer works anymore. It has to be fluid. It has to be what did you called it out earlier, Sam? Bi-directional.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the word I used.
It won't be a bi-directional. But it's also a bi-directional relationship. It's not enough to just at the end of the day or at the next day, do that daily report and fire it off and go, oh, I did that. That was on my in my job description to prepare that daily report. It's how that daily report, first of all, is even considered to drive toward the quality and the health and the safety, and above all, those established standards, which are going to give the general contractor a rinse and repeat map to drive toward his continual operational excellence. We've got a comment here from Amira. Let's see. I think the fact that we don't know how much we are losing per day is a reflection that companies are not sharing the benefits to every level of the project. So the carpenter not only benefits from the PM or project director, and it's true. I mean, these individual roles, as I alluded to earlier, may have other agendas. But using the daily if you're going to use a daily management system at all, and your plan is to do this with some sort of integrity, hopefully some of those, I'll say, hidden agendas are not so hidden anymore, or can't be so hidden anymore. Sam, what do you think of Amira's remark?
Well, it's related to transparency. All I see in this comment is transparency. It builds trust between the field builders and leadership and everyone. I feel that if we're being honest, I it's very rare that we have people that don't want to work towards operational excellence and the company doing well. This is not something that people are misaligned on. It's the quality of the daily management system is going to make this alignment flow better. So we're not necessarily bringing people that are going against the company's interest more in control. That's not the goal of daily management system, and that's not really how operational excellence. The biggest uh, culprit to not reaching operational excellence. To me, it's really making sure that information flows. Every full transparency is a word I like a lot for that. So that the 40K a day blind spot becomes less and less over time, meaning we reach or we tend to reach operational excellence more and more. And one of the biggest um, influencer of that is how we manage things, how we manage those issues on a daily basis, and how they are being communicated. The plan is being communicated, and the issues are being managed effectively.
Yes, again, I'm going to get back to respect for all people being the underlying way that you start to resolve perhaps poor attitudes, or and sometimes I guess they're justified. Over time you get resentful and you carry that around, and that chip on the shoulder spills over into attitudes toward one another. And at the end of the day, everybody wants a paycheck. They want to get home safely. Even the back office. I mean, duplication of information isn't helping. The junior accountant who has to meet payroll, and has to filter through, crap that really doesn't need to be there. Again, this does fall at the feet of leadership to set the standard. What do you want? You want to, you want to increase what little margins you can that, so often are told in construction don't exist. Then this is how you start to chip away at those. And maybe you're not going to see a huge gain in the next project, but you're going to see it 2 and 3 projects down the road. You have to have some vision and some foresight when you think of doing this. Anyway, so that's what I think this slide and sort of this slide just sort of ties it up. Signals diffuse across texts and calls, and ownership is explicit. One name per issue. Your status becomes narrative. We're working on it. Versus escalation paths, which are defined before those issues arise. I mean, all of what's on this slide is just basically saying this is what it is, or it seems to be right now, and how it could look differently. It's not, to me, the greatest summary of all of this, but I do think, Sam, what we shared today begins to open up this can of worms, I'll call it. And your comments, Sam?
Yeah, maybe just one thing I can say is from our experience in the 10 years, we've helped companies elevate their daily management system. The impact, while we can think it's going to take 2 or 3 projects to see an impact, the minute we start to organize the flow of information, we see impact almost instantly. Maybe they won't show on end KPIs or lagging KPIs, as we call them, as quickly as the same day we see the impact. But people on the field, the super project manager, they will see it the day we start working on it. It's going to make their life and their issue more organized. It's going to reduce the amount of chaos they go through every day, and really go home at the end of the day being more serene.
And Renee made a really nice comment. Thank you for that. I love that accountability with signs and solutions to issues are tracked. And it's really about the details. And we can all lose the details, especially in construction. I mean, from one minute to the other. I mean, you're watching your back. You're not getting hit by a beam. I mean, while you're doing your work. I mean, it's no wonder that all these details, and they're massive, the amount of details, can get so easily lost. So I kind of we want to tie this up a little bit here in a bit to say that if you already have good people, which, I think goes without saying, there's not people, generally speaking, for all the people that work in the construction community aren't good people. The only remaining variable is what your system is. What is your system? What are your systems? And again, going back to that other slide, you can have systems galore, but if you don't have a cohesion around those systems, as we saw and we all know, even with whatever your own ecosystem is of how you manage your own work, your own business, whatever, it's heady to stay on top of your own details. So control doesn't eliminate the problems. We know that, but this is a system of control, but it will change your project outcomes and how you get there. So we're giving our viewers today, if they want to map their escalation maps, go ahead, open up your phone, your camera on your phone, and you can take a picture, and it'll lead to my email, info@intelops. And I'm here for it. We have some nice little offers that deep dive into mapping your escalation maps. So I'm offering from intelligent construction opportunities. This is what I do, as I had alluded to at the beginning of this in my introduction. I have built what I call a building brief system, and basically I'm able to provide briefs out of it that are going to help with industry benchmarks, immediate insights into I'll say a generic idea of the things that you can do that help you to sort of round out what we talked about today, your own blind spots. It's generic, but it basically I'm taking a scenario and breaking it down for you. So you're welcome to that brief if you want to have it. So just take a shot again of the QRC code and send me a quick email that you'd like to have that. Alternatively, I'm happy to do a custom version with you, again, using my building brief system, where we'll look at one of your projects or some of your projects, your numbers, and I'll make sure that that deliverable happens within 48 hours of our discussion. And then on the right side, we're offering a DMS maturity audit. It's basically a structured 25 question diagnostic across the 5 dimensions that we talked about on that one slide. So field visibility, issue accountability, communication, problem resolution, and scalability, and will rank where you sit in each one of those dimensions. And they'll be benchmarked. So again, I encourage you, if you're interested in either of these things, get your camera out, get that QRC code, send me a quick email, let me know what you'd like to have, and we'll be on it. And beyond that, we hope to keep in touch with our listeners, and even those that were not able to attend today live, feel free to reach out at us. That is, always what we're interested in, is understanding you within whatever it is that we think we're bringing of value to the market. And beyond that, all our participants will receive a copy of the slides today. Anything else you want to add, Sam?
No, I really want to thank especially Amira and Renee for interacting with us throughout the presentation and with the insightful comments. Really appreciate it, and really happy to we've built some nice the exposure brief that Stephanie has built is a nice way to learn about your own business more, and the DMS maturity audit is a no BS way to see where you stand. Again, the benchmark is the right word against your industry, but also against yourself in a continuous improvement perspective.
Agreed, absolutely. I mean, it's about keeping the conversation going. It's not about, I mean, everybody wants sales, and I'm just going to put that out there. Who doesn't want sales? But nobody needs to buy anything that they don't feel is going to serve them, or it doesn't. In this case, I mean, in my case, I'm offering, most of these things. The DMS maturity audit is of no cost to you, in the free generic brief. I mean, this is to help you move the needle in your business. But it's also helping to build trust between us, because we all know, between AI and the state of the world right now, that's one of the major things that's a big miss on all of our parts. And I, for one, and as I know Sam is, I mean, one of the reasons I'm so pleased to be partnering with Turbine is because over several months now, I've had the opportunity and the pleasure to find a partner with some real teeth in his integrity. And I thank you very much, Sam, for your participation today. And I just want to acknowledge Renee one more time. She says thank you both, and thank you right back at you. It matters that people show up. Renee often comes to many of my live streams and has a lot to say, and we appreciate her contributions. And again, Amira, appreciate it as well. I'd love to get more into commissioning, and that will come down the road. But you know, it, once a building's up or a structure's up, it's up. It still it's living. It needs maintenance. It needs all kinds of things, and they start at the very beginning of the project. And I think you know, some of these tools give the construction community the ability to see what they need to see when they need to see it. It's up to them to pick these tools up. And on that, anything else, Sam, before we call it a wrap?
No, that's it for me. Thank you, Stephanie. Have a great rest of your day.
You too. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.